Welcome to the Global African. Today's episode is starting from Zimbabwe, where there is a political tension, and then we go to the dark streets of Cairo. Also, some power play happening in Central Africa. I'll get to also update you as to what is happening now with the US-Israel conflict, and also a huge fashion film movement in Mexico. Yes, and finally, we get to talk about the strangest sky scenes the world has seen. Let's start from Zimbabwe, because this one says a lot about power and how leaders always want to hold on to it. A parliamentary public hearing in Harare turned chaotic after proposed constitutional changes that could let President Emerson Mnangagwa stay in power beyond 2028 sparked violence and intimidation. Now, AP reports that critics were shouted down, some were blocked from speaking, and human rights lawyer Doug Coltart was assaulted as he left the venue. Now, the proposal will not only extend the president's stay by 2 more years, it will also replace direct presidential elections and parliamentary selection and lengthen terms from 5 years to 7 years. Wow. So this is not just another political scuffle, it is really a fight over whether constitutions are there to protect democracy or to be rewritten whenever power wants more time. Okay, there is another country where this happened recently, and actually they succeeded. I'll be telling you about it in the subsequent stories. Now let's move north, because Egypt is dealing with the kind of crisis that changes the mood of a whole city. RT reports that Cairo is dimming its nightlife, cutting business hours, and reducing electricity use as the war-linked energy squeeze worsens. The government says coffee shops, gyms, sports clubs, and public buildings now have to close earlier and save power. That may sound small at first, but it tells you something bigger. When energy prices jump, the effect is not only at the fuel pump. It changes how people work, how cities feel at night, and how governments manage daily life. Egypt has already slowed some state projects and cut fuel allocations because the conflict has made energy more expensive and less certain. So, this is one of those stories where geopolitics turns into lifestyle change almost overnight. What's going to happen next? From Egypt, let's go to the Central African Republic, where President Faustin Archange Touadera has been sworn in for a 3rd term after a disputed election. Now, I told you one country failed at it, another succeeded. This is it. Now, AP says the opposition largely boycotted the vote, and the path to this 3rd term was opened by a 2023 referendum that removed presidential term limits and stretched terms from 5 years to 7 years. To understand why this matters, you have to remember that Central African Republic has been fragile for more than a decade, with coups, rebel groups, peace deals, and foreign security actors all shaping politics. So this is not just about one inauguration ceremony, it's about what happens when a country with a weak constitution starts concentrating even more power at the top. Supporters call it stability. Critics call it democratic backsliding. Either way, it is a story worth watching. Now to the US-Israel conflict, where the risks keep spreading across the region. AP reports that Iran has hit a tanker off the coast of Qatar, struck Kuwait airport, and launched fresh attacks towards Israel, even as talks of possible ceasefire contacts hang in the background. Since this war began, the conflict has gone far beyond Israel and Iran alone. It is now affecting Gulf infrastructure, shipping, aviation, energy routes, and military deployments. And that is what makes this update so serious. Once tankers, airports, water systems, and oil routes become targets, the whole world starts to feel the pressure through insurance, fuel prices, trade delays, and fear of much wider war. So even when politicians talk about diplomacy, the battlefield is still saying something else. Let's switch gears for a moment, because today's entertainment is lighter but still huge. Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway have kicked off the press tour for The Devil Wears Prada 2 in Mexico City.
Runway. It's not just a magazine. It's a global icon. A winding road that brings us back together again.
Hello?
Well,
Now, the reaction has been massive. People report that the premiere brought back the glamour and nostalgia of the original film, nearly 20 years after it first became a cultural phenomenon. That matters because this is more than a red carpet moment. It shows how some films stay alive in people's memories for decades. And when they return, audiences show up with emotion, style, and curiosity. In a media world flooded with content, that kind of staying power is rare. So this story is really about pop culture memory, the kind that refuses to fade. And finally, let's head to Australia where the sky turned an eerie blood red. This was linked to something called a tropical cyclone. Wow. Now, a report says the dramatic color came from strong winds lifting huge amounts of iron-rich red dust into the air. As that dust spread through the atmosphere, it filtered sunlight in a way that made the sky look almost apocalyptic. Trust me, when I saw it, I was amazed. If I should wake up one morning and look up in the sky and it's like that, I'm gonna get scared. I'll feel probably this is the end. Experts say it was a rare mix of very dry soil, powerful winds, and the region's deep red earth. So this was not a sign of the end times, as many would be scared. Just nature showing off in the wildest way possible. But it also reminds us how extreme weather can create scenes that feel almost unreal. And before we close, a quick football note. You know, Africa will have a record of 10 teams representing us in the World Cup. Yeah, we have Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, Algeria, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Cape Verde, South Africa, and DR Congo. Now, that is a big moment for the continent and a sign that African football is getting more space on the world stage. I rep for Ghana. Which country do you rep for and what are the odds? This time we have bigger odds because we have more countries, right? Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section. Now for our underrated genius moment. Today's name is Radia Perlman. Most people have never heard her name, but the modern internet would look very different without her. Trust me. She created the Spanning Tree Protocol, a breakthrough that helped computer networks organize themselves and move data more reliably. In simple terms, she helped make it possible for large networks to work without collapsing into chaos. So every time the internet quietly does its job in the background, there is a bit of Radia Perlman's thinking in that world. Now, she didn't just work on the internet, she helped make it usable. Now, that's a genius. On to our fun fact for today. Octopuses have 3 hearts, blue blood, and can taste with their arms. So basically, nature made one animal and decided, oh, okay, let me show off a little bit. That's nice. Let me know which story stayed with you and remember to subscribe to The Global African for clear news and real perspective.